There was nothing left of us after the war. Once, we were magnificent. For 1,000,000 years, the Rethi lived in peace and prosperity. Even the greatest empires looked upon us with envy. Our technology, our culture, our unity. To be Rethi was to be the pinnacle of civilization. Generation after generation knew nothing of pain, fear, or loss. Our Sigila, a long, sinuous form with 2 tails and an elongated head, arms spread wide, adorned everything we made. Across the stars, it became a symbol of excellence, a promise that whatever bore our mark was of the highest quality. But what we thought would inspire admiration instead stirred jealousy. Where we expected respect, we bred resentment. So when the war came, we were unprepared. An alliance of 3, the Zon, the Sile, and the Togan, swept across our systems like wildfire through dry forests. Our fleets shattered. Our homeworld was burned to its bedrock. 1,000,000 years of brilliance reduced to ash and silence. We watched in horror as the universe turned away. Even our closest allies averted their eyes. One by one, our colonies fell. Those the invaders bypassed were later claimed when the victors divided the spoils. Everything we had ever been became theirs. When at last the guns went quiet, there was nothing left of us. Not in any way that mattered. Our civilization existed only as a footnote in the archives of others. A few of us survived, fleeing aboard what ships remained. We became wanderers, itinerant traders selling fragments of our past. To anyone who would buy, our sigil was erased from our vessels, for it was safer that way. We were nobodies now, and we belonged to no one. The old allies who once toasted our friendship refused to take us in, afraid of drawing our enemies' wrath. So we drifted from star to star, taking shelter where we could, always moving on before the shadows of war found us again. Eventually, our long exile brought us to a small blue world on the edge of a distant spiral arm, a shining jewel they called Earth. To our astonishment, the natives welcomed us. We had nothing left to offer them, only scraps, stories, and the fading memories of glory. Yet, they let us stay. Their motives were unclear, but we were too weary to question kindness. They were awkward creatures. These humans, ungainly, emotional, primitive, they had barely left the cradle of their solar system. Once, we would have pitied them, but now, we pitied only ourselves. Compared to our decaying ships, Earth was an oasis. The humans gave us a portion of their oceans and a scattering of islands, enough for what few of us remained. They asked for nothing in return, perhaps assuming we had nothing to give, but we did. If not in material wealth, then in knowledge. So we taught them, and they learned, faster than we believed possible. They absorbed what we shared, reshaping our advanced theories into crude but functional tools, inventions they could actually wield. Decades passed, and humanity transformed before our eyes. No longer backward, no longer helpless. For the first time since our fall, we began to hope. Then the stars remembered us. Our old enemies returned. The Zone sent an embassy to Earth with a single demand: hand over the Rethi, or be annihilated with them. We had always feared this day might come. Our ships were still spaceworthy, and with heavy hearts, we prepared to flee once more. But then, the humans did something no one expected. They... Isaid? No. The Zone ambassador, certain of a mistranslation, asked again. The humans repeated their answer. A third time he asked, and the reply came clearer still. You come to our planet hunting refugees who pose, threat. You demand that we betray our friends. You threaten us in our own home. Our answer is no. The ambassador reminded them that the Zon possessed fleets beyond counting, more than enough to destroy their fragile world. The humans did not flinch. If you value those fleets, they said, keep them far from Earth. Retaliation came slowly. Earth was far from civilized space, and the Zon had brought only a token force. They thought fear alone would suffice. But when their demands failed, they summoned the Grand Fleet, the same alliance that had once burned our worlds to dust. They made a fatal mistake. Most species, when threatened, weigh the costs of resistance against the cost of surrender and choose survival. But humans are different. They measure only this: how much strength they can bring to bear, how much their enemy can muster in return, and whether the odds, however slim, still permit a chance at victory. If there is even a flicker of hope, they will fight, no matter the cost. And that, above all else, is what the Zon never understood. But the Triple Alliance soon learned a cruel truth about humans. Killing them doesn't make them stop. It only makes them fight harder. The first engagements took place near the Cygnus system. A small Earth fleet ambushed a forward element of the Alliance armada, destroying several ships before reinforcements arrived. When the counterattack came, the humans stood their ground. The battle was brutal. 90% of their fleet was lost, their ships reduced to debris, their colonies evacuated moments before being turned to ash. To most species, such a defeat would end the war before it began. To humans, it was only the beginning. When the Sile sent an embassy to negotiate Earth's surrender, the humans were bewildered. "Why would we surrender?" they asked. "You've only won a single battle." The Sile believed humanity had seen reason, that they had demonstrated their superiority, and that the humans would submit to avoid further losses. That's how most species would react. But the Sile were not dealing with most species. Cygnus became a rallying cry. Not a mark of shame, but a banner. Where others would hide their wounds, the humans turned theirs into war paint. The conflict dragged on. The Alliance's first push toward Earth met defenses far beyond expectation. Humanity had used the long silence wisely, fortifying system after system until every world was a fortress. The invaders found themselves caught in ambushes, cut off by minefields and static guns that bled their fleets dry. So they changed tactics. If they could not fight their way through, they would strike directly at Earth. That, too, failed. The blue jewel at the edge of the spiral arm had become the most heavily defended planet in known space. Even the combined might of the Alliance could not break through. The attackers withdrew, bloodied and furious. Next, they tried to lure the humans out by attacking undefended colonies. But the humans refused to be baited. They let worlds burn, only to strike back with precision and fury, raiding supply lines, ambushing stragglers, vanishing before the counterblow. And this time they were not alone. Some of us, the Rethi, fought beside them. For the first time, our kind learned what it truly meant to resist. Once, our attempts to defend ourselves had been pathetic gestures of pride. Now, under human guidance, we learned to fight and to endure. The Alliance began to fracture. Their supply lines stretched thin across the void. Their casualty rates climbed 2 levels unthinkable to them. Levels humans accepted as the price of survival. The Togan consolidated their fleets, too fearful to advance further. The Sile cursed them for cowardice. The Zon bled resources into a war they could no longer justify, and the humans kept fighting. Slowly, impossibly, they began to win. When the cracks appeared, the galaxy noticed. The war had disrupted trade and terrified entire sectors. The brutality of the Alliance's campaign had not gone unnoticed, and humanity's neighbors, rational beings, as we Rethi understood the word, began to make their own calculations. They saw that the invincible juggernaut was faltering. Probing attacks came first, then open strikes against Alliance logistics fleets. A single devastating battle destroyed an entire Alliance convoy at almost no cost to the attackers. The illusion of superiority shattered. The Togan withdrew first, then the Sa'il. Then, finally, the remnants of the Zon limped home. The great war machine that had once burned our civilization to dust collapsed almost overnight. The humans pursued them across the stars, not for conquest, but for closure, and at last met the Alliance in one final, cataclysmic battle that ended the war forever. When it was over, the proud fleets of the Triple Alliance drifted home in ruin, and there, waiting for them, were all the species they had once threatened and bullied. Now free to settle their own accounts. The humans had warned them, if you wish to keep your ships, keep them far from Earth. They should have listened. Victory came at a terrible cost, but it was victory nonetheless. And when the smoke cleared, something miraculous remained our home, our sanctuary, Earth. After the war, I asked a human commander a question that had haunted me since the beginning. Why? I said. Why did you do it? You could have turned us over and spared yourselves the pain of it all. He looked at me for a long moment before answering. Because you were our guests, he said. Our friends. And you don't deal with bullies by giving them what they want. Give in once, and they'll take more and more until there's nothing left to fight for. Better to fight when you still have something worth protecting. I sat in silence, hearing echoes of a wisdom I had never known. Only then did I begin to understand these strange, passionate creatures we had once pitied, these humans who balanced between madness and genius, savagery and grace. So mark my words well. There is logic in their madness. They are less than sane, but more than savage. And while they walk that narrow path between the two, there is more within their reach than for any who stand on either side. We, the Rethi, are ancient, 1,000,000 years behind us, but they, the children of Earth, may yet have 1,000,000 years of greatness still to come.